I just had a message from Janice. She said there's a tornado watch going on here till 6 p.m. So she's basically saying, if you hear sirens, get Liesel, the dog, and go to the basement. I'm already in the basement. You're on your own, Liesel.
And this is what I played for him.
Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. She warbles as she flies, but she never hollers cuckoo until the 4th day of July. Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Cuckoo Town podcast. I apologise for the long delay. Life has been hectic. I did have a great episode lined up for you, but sadly my software crashed less than a minute after I'd finished the final edit, and I've not seen the audio track since. I'm still annoyed about it, but I was partly to blame as I hadn't made a copy of the original audio, a painful lesson learned. On a brighter note, today's episode. I'll let this week's guest introduce himself in a few moments' time, but first I will just say that the guest is an old friend of mine. I first met him at David Gillam's Cornwall UFO Research Group's annual conference many years ago. Sometimes in life, if you're lucky, you randomly meet a stranger who will then become an instant and long-lasting friend. My guest today is one such person. Much of our conversation in this episode revolves around the North Cornish coast generally and the far west of Cornwall. It's an area that's always been renowned for high strangeness, for giants, mermaids, knockers, spridgeons, piskies, ghosts and UFOs, for example. But the fae that were described in the old Cornish folklore and our more modern ufology, are they not, as I've said in my Spirit of Cornwall A Haunted Legacy books back in 2019, merely complementary verses of the same song? You decide. There's no definitive answer. Not yet, anyway.
Hello, my name is Matt James. I have a big interest in paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, and the spiritual connections with owls. What is the universe trying to tell us? Thank you and enjoy the podcast.
When I was a little nipper, moved down to Snagness in Cornwall. Lived in lovely surroundings with a beacon in the distance at the back of our house. Nice beaches just down the road.
Yeah.
I moved down there with mum and dad, with two brothers. My nan lived across the other way.
So,
Quite a shy child, always thinking about...
deeper stuff.
Yeah, deeper stuff. When you're kids, you start getting feelings of things, and
yeah,
I think kids sort of tune into things when they're little.
Did you go out onto the cliffs and on the old tin mine workings?
We used to go for a lot of walks up on the beacon and down the coast. Dad used to take us down on the cliffs and take the dog for a walk, and it's very mystical, Snagness. Actually, the beacon is very, when you go up there in the evening when the nights are drawing in.
Can you explain to the audience
in the winter time gets a bit
what the beacon is?
The beacon, basically at the back of our house, you had full fields, and then you used to go across a little lane, and then you go up the path, up towards the beacon. Up the top, it's just like a huge mound with a white pillar stone at the top of it.
Is it granite round there?
There is some granite stone around the beacon, and then as you go down the other side, then you've got the tin mines down on the coast.
To the closest ones, is that? I walked through there many years ago, but I can't remember it. Is it Batallock, a bit further away?
Batallock is not far from there. Yeah, there's a lot of tin mines, and
so there's old mine shafts and engine houses.
There's a lot of mine shafts. Yeah.
Were there any just a slight distraction? Were there any sort of ghost stories attached to those mines?
There was a story they used to do in school about a giant that used to live up on Snagness Beacon, which was a legend. We do the story in school. And I remember, I remember we all had to draw a giant. Giant lived up on the beacon, and there is some mysterious, mystic sort of ways up on the beacon, I would say so. Yeah, it's just a great place to live, really.
Yeah, I mean, you can go swimming within like a 10-minute walk.
Yeah, I used to go down with mates. Sometimes we get driven down. Sometimes we walk down surfing.
Oh, cool.
In the summer.
Yeah, I've done a bit of that.
Yeah, it's all good, really. Snagness was a great place to live when I was a child.
Yeah, good place to grow up. So what was your first sort of paranormal experience? I remember you telling the story about something to do with a dog, wasn't it, when you were younger?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, probably 10, 11 years old. Sat in the living room. It was a winter's night. remember the coal fire was going as we had an open fire. Mum was sat there. I was sat on the sofa with my younger brother, and my older brother sat at the end, but he was asleep. The dog was on the other seat down the other end, but my dad had popped down into the village. It would have been a Friday night, I would imagine, because it was always fish and chip night on a Friday night.
Oh, lovely.
And I do recall Dad going down to get fish and chip. He was waiting.
I love fish and chips.
Yeah, good fish and chips. Yeah.
Cornish fish and chips. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Yeah, he was just sat there watching the telly. And the other side of our living room is the hallway, because it was a bungalow. And then all of a sudden, we just hear this woman's voice. It was so crystal clear. And she just shouted out, dog's name. It was called Pruny. She looked like a black prune. So that's what Mum called her, Pruny. Pruny, yeah. So it was a funny name. That's what Mum called her, and that was it. She just called out the dog's name like that.
Just from nowhere, but you couldn't see her.
Just from nowhere. Absolutely
just a
nowhere.
weird voice.
So clear though, so crystal clear. It was a gentle, crystal clear woman's voice. It was coming from the hallway.
Yeah, whatever it was, knew the dog's name.
No, if there was an entity, ghost, or whatever in the house.
Yeah.
It was obviously picking up on our energies in the house.
Yes.
And can obviously hear us calling the dog's name. For some bizarre reason, this ghost just called out the dog's name.
And did it ever happen again?
It never happened again, no. But we did used to get other things happen in the bungalow. Dad used to notice sometimes that the screws used to loosen on the plugs and they'd all come loose. Plug the telly in, and he noticed that the screws had been loosened on the plug.
That's odd. Yeah.
Yeah. And he used to come to us and say, "Have you lot been playing around with the plug?" And we said, "No, we haven't. We haven't been playing with the plugs. What do we want to play around with the plugs for? You know, it's just no good reason for us to play with the plugs. So we'd have to get a screwdriver to undo them."
Yeah.
But it was the plugs were like that all the time, on and off. So
that is so strange.
And that happened in our next house in Short Lanes End after we moved out of St Agnes.
I should just say for the listeners, St Agnes is on the north coast.
Yeah, St Agnes is on the north coast. Yeah, not.
Is it sort of lower down than Newquay?
Yeah, you got Newquay, then Poporth, and then Portreath. St Agnes.
And where did you go from St Agnes? Was that the last?
We went to a little village then. That was a little village just outside Truro called Short Lanes End. We moved out there.
Right, yeah.
12 years old. So.
Right. And did this entity, whatever it was, did it follow you? Your new address?
Yeah, we did have other things happen at our new house as well. These ghosts followed us to the new house. Because it was a new build, actually, the one in the village of Short Lanes End. It was a new build.
Do you know what was on the land before
the bungalow was new. We was the first ones to move into the bungalow. So we was the first ones to move into the house in the village of Short Lanes End.
Do you know what was on the site before in each case?
Well, St Agnes, there was a lot of mines on the bungalow estate we lived on underneath. Because there was actually people's drives caved in on a couple of houses.
Right, yeah, I see that in the media occasionally, yes. Some people just lose their gardens overnight, don't they?
That's it, yeah. And
that's scary.
Garden, his car actually fell down the driveway. He had a hole open up in his driveway and the car was sticking down in it.
Yeah, I know when you buy a place in Cornwall in certain areas, I mean, I did, they do a search on the property. They go into all the mining tunnels, and of course they can only know so much of it, can't they? Because they go back to 2,000-3,000 years, some of them, so they're not all charted.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you remember my place at Carbis Bay, Tolpedon, that I had to do a search on that, or the solicitor did, and they found there were mines shafts under there, and I had weird activity there as well. That might be related. Anyway, sorry, back to
that story in St Agnes is never, I've never forgotten that. And then obviously when we moved to Short Lanes End, we had things like plugs against, screws being loosened.
So that was probably the same entity, because it's doing the same things, isn't it? It's an unusual thing to do. I mean, I've never heard of that ever before. And
no, it was so bizarre. There was just no answer for it. Dad was very confused by it, because screws just don't unscrew themselves like that.
It's just such an odd thing to do, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it's strange. I've never sort of looked into it. Perhaps there might be a reason for ghosts to do that sort of thing. I don't know, but
yeah, it sort of sounds sort of almost like sort of poltergeist type stuff, I suppose, if you're going to put a label on it.
That is a possibility. I did have another thing happen to me in the house in Short Lanes. I was in the hallway, went into the living room. Now, in our living room, we had a sort of high pile carpet.
Oh, right, yeah.
And when you open the door up, you open it up to the wall, and there's just no way it can blow back or shut back on its own.
Right.
Just not possible.
Because the carpet is too deep.
Yeah, it's not a free-flowing door, basically.
No.
Now, I walked through there, and then I went out to the to the extended room, through the living room out to the dining room. All the windows were shut. Walked in the dining room and I heard the door shut behind me, literally from the wall, fully open, closed shut. Thought, that's not possible.
Was it slammed? Was it like
Yeah, it just slammed shut.
Yeah, not just sort of gently closed, but slammed.
Yeah, slammed shut. It just slammed shut. And I didn't have an answer for that.
It's almost like somebody's saying to you, "Oh, shut the door. It's cold in there. Keep that door shut."
Yeah, it's just another bizarre moment when you think, how's that happened? That can't happen.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Did the rest of your family sort of spot all these things? I mean, obviously, when you had the lady shouting out "Pruny," your mum was there. She heard it, didn't she? Did you say your brother was asleep and he didn't hear it?
Yeah, my older brother was asleep, didn't hear it. The dog was asleep, didn't hear it. But me, my younger brother, and my mum, we all just looked in horror at each other and thought, so
odd.
What was that we just heard?
So in later time,
it still gives me the creeps now. Really.
Yeah, when you moved to Short Lanes End, that's a great name, isn't it? Was it your mother and you that picked up on things more than other, like your dad, or not? Or did your dad experience stuff too, and your brother?
Mum was very spiritual, and she used to go to mediums. A couple of ladies in the village of Snagness that were mediums.
Yes.
So Mum was always into spirituality, clairvoyance, and all that sort of stuff. Dad, he had an experience as well while we were sat there with him in Short Lanes End. This was another night sitting in the living room watching telly. And
I should just say for our American listeners, because some of them don't realise, telly is a TV. Because I said that to somebody here once, and they went, "What's a telly?" Yeah, okay. Just in case they don't know.
Yeah, so we're watching TV, and Dad had done a wooden carving of a horse, which he made and varnished it and all that.
Yeah,
and it did look nice. And he put it up on the wall, and it was solid on a screw on the wall. I sat there one night in TV, and then all of a sudden, this carving actually flew off the screw. Flew across the room right in front of Dad's feet and landed on the floor.
Sorry to laugh. It's shocking, isn't it?
No, I was there. I was there. I think the brother Jonathan was there again, and Mum. We was all sat watching TV, and it just flew off the wall and landed on the floor in front of us.
Yeah.
And we was just like looking at each other and thought, how the hell's that happened? Like,
Did you ever try? Because if your mum went to all these spiritualist sort of meetings and stuff, did she ever sort of like try using sage or something to try and clear out these unwanted visitors or anything else?
She wasn't into sage no, she wasn't into sage or anything like that. But the things that always happen in the houses, it never felt threatening, but something was going on, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yeah.
We never felt threatened by whatever was around it. Just unexplainable, all of it, really. But we never felt threatened.
Just sort of low level annoying stuff, really. So you're in the sort of your second property. So like as you're growing older, when did you get interested in like the UFO angle? When did you have a sighting? Yeah,
I've had one incident in Snagness, one in Short Lanes End actually. Snagness was with Mum and Dad again, and my younger brother, going along Teagle Straight, which is off Chiverton roundabout. You go through Teagle Straight, and then you start going down a hill, and there's another hill going up, and then you start going into Snagness. As you're going down the hill, you can actually see the beacon to your left. And as we're going down that hill, that's when Dad said, "What's that?"
So
inquisitive, looked up, and we could just see this disc-shaped UFO to the left of us, up in the sky there.
So was it over the sea or over the land?
Dad pulled over. It was over the land. Yeah, sort of between us and the beacon, basically, to the left of the beacon.
Right.
It's disc-shaped, pulled over. 2 or 3 other cars actually pulled over.
Right, so multiple witnesses then.
Yeah, there's about 3 or 4 cars there.
Was this a long time?
I must have been about 9 years old, I think, when that happened. 1979. Yeah, 79, 78, 79. But it's another thing you just don't forget.
No, I wouldn't have.
Like that. It was a disc-shaped UFO. It was there. The next minute, it just zoomed and it was gone.
Yes,
like in a split second, gone.
Amazing. So did it go out towards the sea, or did it go up country, or?
You had the beacon in front of us. It basically went off left, but it was gone in a second, crazy.
There's a hell of a lot of UFO activity on that north coast, as you know, all the way down. I mean, from Bude, there's loads at Bude, as you know, because I think it's to do with that GCHQ place. I think they keep an eye on that. They're interested in the satellite dishes and so on.
That's right.
The guys who work there, it's quite well known that they've had sightings where there's been UFOs over the top of that place. So anyway, sorry, I took you off that. So yeah, UFO activity all down that, all over Cornwall, really, isn't it?
I have heard recently there's been a couple of sightings in Porth with UFOs in there was one 2 years ago, and there was another one recently where seen someone's toe. Yeah, you are right. On that north coast, and there's been a lot of activity in Snide and Carbis Bay as well over the sea. Yeah. There was a chap that reported a UFO in Snides many years ago. He said he woke up one morning and looked out his window.
Oh, I remember this one.
About 6 o'clock in the morning, and actually seen a
massive one.
You've seen a craft fly out of the sea up into the sky.
Actually, out of the sea itself.
And he said that's what he's seen. So
yeah, amazing. Was that a triangular one? I can't remember now. I know he said it was huge.
I cannot remember what he just. I think it was a black triangle craft actually. Yeah. Well, we had that weird incident, didn't we? When we went up on that UFO skywatch.
We did.
We picked up a lot of strange stuff on our phones, didn't we, that night?
Yeah, there was like beams of light coming out of the hill.
Yeah, out of all the skywatches I've done over the years, that one picked up more energy on that hill than any other skywatch. You, me, and Kevin were picking up stuff on our phone.
Yeah. I think at the time I didn't realise there was anything going on, and I just took a few pictures, and I've still got them. So, is it Dave Gillam?
Dave Gillen, yeah.
Kevin, you just mentioned, I think. I can't remember. Who was
Kevin James.
Yeah. There's just this beam of light amongst you. That's so odd.
Yeah. That night, it was hopeless for a skywatch. It was coming all foggy, misty, didn't it? But we picked up all this. We picked up all this other phenomenon, didn't we? These weird lights.
Yeah. That was so bleak up there. I mean, like for people who don't know Cornwall, when you get up on those hills, it is so bleak. There's no trees up there. Generally, there's no trees. It's just like huge lumps of granite, old mine shafts. You got to watch where you're treading.
Last summer, we arranged a skywatch up Rosewall Hill.
I love Rosewall. One of my favourites. I've had some weird experiences up there. Yeah, carry on, after you.
Great place to go. But we arranged a skywatch up there one night. Nice and hail was clear. Yeah. As soon as you start approaching Rosewall, it was all foggy and misty, and it's just no good for a skywatch.
No, and we got up there. It comes in really quickly, doesn't it? It comes like it's clear, even in the daytime. Sometimes you go up there and it's really clear, and then you just get this mist. It sort of comes off the sea.
Yeah, that's it.
And then everything goes quiet.
That's it.
Well. Yeah, I had that with surfing.
Yeah, that's right.
On a Sunday morning in Bude, I went surfing with a mate, and it's a beautiful, beautiful morning. We went out there, and there was no waves. That's really bad for surfing. But we just sort of were floating around on our boards, just enjoying the sunshine. And this mist came, and it surrounded us. So it's one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. There were two of us just laying on our boards with this mist enveloped us right around us, and all the sounds of the children playing on beach, like all that happy sort of laughing and shouting, it muffled it. So it was just like really, really quiet. And then we saw a dolphin. A dolphin came through near us, just like the tail.
Right.
Yeah, it was a fantastic experience. And then it cleared. It took about 5 minutes, but it was like, you felt lost, even though you sort of knew roughly where you were. We were only, 20 foot, 30 foot off the coast.
It was my brother. He was going through the back lanes from Short Lanes End to Trisbane one night, and it was hammering down with rain. It was a winter's night, and on this hill, you seen a bright orange light, and he said it just lit up the whole field. But he couldn't, as he went along the bottom of the lane there, great hill going up, great mound going up this field. But he said the orange light was beyond that, but it lit the whole field up.
Wow.
He wanted to get out and look, but his wife was actually panicking and said, "No, I don't want to stop here. Just keep driving." But he couldn't get any answers to what the light was.
No.
And it was hammering down with rain.
So was it sort of, was the light coming from the ground, or was it above?
He said, as you look up the hill, he said beyond the brow of the hill, he said there was this just huge orange light, and it just lit up the whole area. To this day, he couldn't explain what it was. I said to him, could it have been a farmer in his field, like on a winter's night? in the pouring down the rain.
No.
Down these fields.
As you say, up on these hills, it's very creepy. It's Rosewall that you mentioned. Fantastic views when it is clear. Like you can see both sides of the peninsula, can't you? And Tren Crom's the same. Beautiful up there as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But it's like when that mist comes in quickly, doesn't it? And it's like I was up there when I was 16 with a mate of mine. We were on the rocks, on the granite, that huge lumps of granite up the top of Rosewall. And we were clambering all over like you do. At one point we saw, this mist came in and enveloped us like it always seems to do that. And this little black dog came out of the mist, came up to us, and it just sort of sat there. Well, not sat, stood there, didn't sit. And it was just staring at us like, it didn't sort of bark at us or anything. It just stared at us like it was taking it all in, who we were. And we sort of stared back at this dog thinking, what the hell, where's that come from? And then we assumed that the dog would have, a master with it. Somebody would be walking that dog. That dog sort of just, the dog went off somewhere and nobody ever sort of appeared. And it's easy to get lost on those hills. So when you try and walk across those tracks amongst that gorse, it's easy to take the wrong path. And then even like there's another place called, Neil Steeple. The steeple above Carbis Bay?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. We were up there.
Yeah. I've been there many a time.
I was up there with Janice and literally I know where it is. I know how to get there. It's easy enough and it can't miss it. And we walked up to it. And when we tried to walk back towards the little lane, where the car was parked, we couldn't find path to get back. And it was starting to get dark.
No.
Because every path we went down, this isn't it. It's stupid, but
that's it.
Easy to get lost. And then you start thinking of piskies.
Well, we got lost.
Because that's what they do. They get you lost.
Well, we got lost on that Skywatch, didn't we? That one I said about, where we picked up these bizarre lights. You, me, Davey, Kevin took a wrong turn.
Wasn't that strange? It's like I
ended up on the other side of the village.
Yeah, we actually got lost because we ended up in that. I didn't recognise that village. You probably did, but I didn't know it. Didn't we meet some guy and he wondered what we were doing wandering around the village at like 1 o'clock in the morning? There was a group of us, wasn't there?
Yeah, Dave. 4 or 5.
Yeah, and he stopped.
Dave flagged him down.
Would you have stopped if that was you?
He took us back.
Yeah, I think he thought I was a bunch of crazies. Because we.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But he was a really nice guy, wasn't he? But we could have been a bunch of dangerous psychopaths for all he knew. But he stopped and he gave us a ride, didn't he? He gave us a ride back to our car.
Yeah, he gave us a lift back to the other side of the.
Yeah, because we walked down the wrong side of the hill. Right, like it's so easy to get lost up there. But that was the night we saw those weird beams of light. Even if you don't see anything, it's just a laugh. Just to be out there wandering in nature. Middle of the night.
Yeah, that's it.
Flying around, the houses at night, flying alone.
You mentioned a guy earlier, speaking like this, because obviously we've got an audience, and I know you know, and I know. Dave Gillam.
Yeah.
And really wanted to sort of give a big shout out to Dave, because Dave Gillam, he had a UFO sighting, a really good one, in Truro in Cornwall, probably in the 90s, I think? Early 90s?
That's right, I think so.
90s, something like that. Because of that sighting, he was not interested at all in it, and then he suddenly had a sighting, got really interested, and he started just wanting to get answers, so he met up with people who'd had these experiences and read everything he could. And then he set up a conference in Truro. One of the early guests was David Icke. That was back in, I think, 99 or something, or 97, something like that. And then gradually he built it up and he got more and more people. Like, cause we know because we went, and you still do, but the people who went to his conferences, the people outside of this weird stuff, right, who don't understand, for whatever reason, they make assumptions, some of them do, that people who are into this stuff are crazy people. But the people who go to the conferences, right, we know this because I go to quite a few here as well. They're really intelligent people. Yeah. Really intelligent people. And they come from all walks of life. We get policemen. Okay, so they're not all intelligent. But no, that was a joke. No offense to any coppers listening. No, we get policemen, we get farmers, we get lots of farmers, don't we? We know loads of farmers from a UFO conference, because farmers live in the countryside, and guess what? They see more than we do because they've got no light pollution and they see this.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why farmers, and same with policemen. Policemen are out all hours of the night in their cars, sitting there
And they see stuff.
And they see stuff. It's well known, isn't it? Policemen, farmers, military people. We get military people, and just about every walk of life you can think of, and also lovely people. I've always loved the Truro Conference because you get this great mix of people. I always find,
you do meet some great people.
Yeah, and I find the gathering when we're all having lunch or afternoon tea or something, that's probably as good as the actual lectures because you're getting all the great stories.
Yeah, it is
direct, and then they're not trying to sell you some weird theory either. Some of the people who go to give talks, they're not all great, are they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Some of them.
No, not all of them. No.
But
there's some good ones, and there's some.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I met you. I don't know what year that was.
That's it. Yeah.
I remember going to the conference. It was you were sat in the back.
It was my first one.
Do you know who was talking that year? Do you remember?
Win Keach.
Oh God, yeah, Win Keach. Yeah, he had some really excellent footage of he'd been up on some mountain filming UFO stuff.
That's
Wales,
right,
wasn't it? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, Win Keach. He was good actually. He was very good.
But there were some really good ones. I mean, I remember Gary Heseltine. He was an ex-police detective in Yorkshire. Do you remember his talk?
That's right. Yeah,
and he was good. I mean, he knows his stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does know his stuff. Yeah.
Dave Gillam does get some really, really good people down. Dave Gillam's stories are fantastic of the things he's experienced. Who was the guy that he was with? He wrote a book about. They did some sort of statements on Bodmin and Dartmoor.
Mike Freeby.
Yeah, Mike Freeby. Fantastic and a great writer. Writer. I love it. Have you read his book?
Yeah, Killers on the Moor.
Yeah, Killers on the Moor. If anyone's listening and taking this in, Killers on the Moor, Mike Freeby, one of the best books on UFOs and weird stuff you'll ever read. Yeah, great book.
Yeah, that is a good read. That
that comes back to what you were saying about the lights on the hills, the weird lights. They were filming all that stuff and laying low, they were hiding away up there on the moors, watching all this stuff, taking recordings, and they were trying to because there'd been mutilations and stuff going on in the farms. The farmers had.
That's it. One particular.
Yeah.
That's it. One particular farmer had sheep and cows being
that's right,
mutilated on a regular basis.
Yeah, and Mike, he was taking. I've probably not got this exactly right, but he was taking these mutilated sheep to local veterinaries to have them analysed to find out what was happening there. And so he like everyone else. Everyone else sort of reads about it. Mike Freeby does it. He got out there with Dave and he did this stuff. And he was taking them to a local vet. And then the vets were being spied on by the government. And this is all in the book. They were tapping his phone so they knew where he was going with these animals. And the veterinary, I don't know if the veterinary knew about that at first or not. So he started, instead of taking them to a local vet in Cornwall or Devon, he started putting them in his boot of his brand new, lovely car, dead sheep.
That's right.
And taking them 4 hours, 4 hours or 5 hours up the motorway to the Birmingham area, somewhere around there where he lived, so that the authorities wouldn't know what he was doing because he was trying to find out stuff and they were trying to muscle in on it. Dave packed it up. He found a mouse on his doorstep. Do you remember that?
That's right.
And it had been mutilated in a really weird way. It wasn't like a cat had done it.
Yeah, that's right.
And he thought that was a warning to sort of back off. Yeah, it's so freaky, this stuff. It's dark, isn't it?
No, well, the other thing with Mike Freeby is when he put those sheep in the car, they decompose so quickly.
Are they what?
In the journey back to Birmingham.
Yeah.
Faster than normal. When he's taking them back to Birmingham, the vet said that shouldn't be happening.
Freaky,
so the original story on that is on Dartmoor, before Mike and Dave started investigating on Dartmoor, there was an incident on Dartmoor where there was a horse and 16 ponies. 16 ponies were found dead on Dartmoor that all looked like they'd been mutilated. And one of the ponies had its head turned round the other way.
That rings a bell, yeah.
The other way.
Yeah.
And reported in the local newspaper, the Dartmoor local paper reported it, but then the police started covering it up.
Yes, yeah.
But,
and they would get normally starts off. I'm not sure if it was in that case, but the police are normally sort of interested and they want to help and they're and then somebody steps in above them, like their chief constable. Somebody has a word in the ear of a chief constable and he sends a message down like, no, back off, don't touch this stuff. That's how it normally works. But there's a place in I think it's near Preston which supposedly Maggie Thatcher set up in the 80s. And it's like a secretive lab because they knew about all this stuff, but it's like, it's not on public record. It's like a secretive place. Yeah, they do investigate. They do know about this stuff and they do investigate it, but they don't want regular people like Dave and Mike, and they don't want them involved. They don't want them to know.
No. What's going on? It's a very touchy subject, isn't it? But it's still going on. There's still farms all over the world that are getting mutilations.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cattle ranches.
That's right, over here, America.
In America, they're getting cows mutilated.
Yeah, I mean, without sounding like, because I'm not religious really. I mean, I will say it sort of comes over like satanic. You know, the idea that there doesn't seem to be a purpose to mutilating animals. It's just evil to me. Whatever label you want to put on it, there's good and bad, you know. And it's like, why would like the horse with its head turned around? Why would you do that?
It don't make sense, does it?
No. And then of course you get linked to that. You get the media. They come out with this rubbish saying like, oh, it's devil worship. You know, it's these devil worshippers. Because there's obviously a history of that in Cornwall and Devon anyway. But they sort of try and pin it on them and say, oh, they're doing it. No, they couldn't do it, could they? Because it's like you would need surgical skills and equipment that we haven't even got, you know. And they're trying to tell you that these people are doing that in the middle of the night on a dark Cornish hillside. You know what it's like on those hills. It's a job to walk in a straight without falling over. You're not going to be doing intricate surgery in the dark. You know,
there's no blood. There's no blood.
There's
no blood around the corpses, is there? There's no.
That's right.
There's sometimes the blood's being drained out. There's no actual blood in the animal.
Yeah. Is it perhaps a food source for something?
Who knows?
Radio waves and gibberish, Agent Cooper. Till Thursday night, Friday morning to be exact. The readout took us by surprise. Row after row of gibberish, and all of a sudden, the owls are not what they seem.
You've had a few weird experiences with owls.
It's been going on now for about 2 or 3 years now, and it's pretty intense sometimes because it's just everywhere I go, I see an image of an owl or see an actual owl, or
right.
And some of them are just unprecedented, really. That's the things that have happened. I think the one that started it all was going to see my mum and dad in Mount Hawke, village of Mount Hawke, which is not far from St Agnes. That's where they live now.
Yeah.
So I went and seen them for the evening. Now, from Mount Hawke, you can either go back on the A30 or you can go right out the village.
Right.
And go on the coast road, going back towards Hale.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll go that way. But it's a stormy night, quite blustery, winter's night.
Right.
It's about 6, 7 o'clock. I go through Portree. You go up through Portree, go up the hill, up over the other side, and you go out over the top along the coast road there, going towards Hell's Mouth.
Just for listeners, Hell's Mouth is like a big drop, and it's a huge sudden drop on the cliffs, very high.
There's a few shipwrecks that have fouled in that area, and they've gone smashing into the rocks. I take it that's where the name comes from.
Coast. Yeah. I remember going there as a 16-year-old.
Yeah, it's very
putting my head over the edge and just laying on the top and looking over the edge. I would never do that now. Yeah. When you're 16, you do stupid things, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. I think I've done that. So I do believe there is a ship there that's still wrecked there, lay dormant, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the sea there.
It's shipwrecks all up and down that coast. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'll just. Where were you?
Yeah.
You were heading over towards Mount Hawke.
I was leaving Mount Hawke, going back towards Hale, which is where I live now, which is not far from St Ives Colbis Bay. I was going along the straight road there, big long straight road, and then I could just, in the distance, I could just see something in the road. I thought, what's that? I kept going, and then as I got nearer, I thought, that's a white barn owl. I thought, well, I started flashing lights. I thought it'd fly off as I approached it, but as I approached it, it just stayed there, and it was so I just pulled up to it, and it was just looking at me.
How big was it? Because I'm asking because this happened to me, but with mine it was like about 4 foot high.
Yeah, it was like this was a normal sized barn owl.
Yeah,
quite big.
So it's a bit smaller than that. Probably what 2 foot maybe.
Yeah, 2 foot. I'd say about 2 foot. Yeah.
Yeah,
2 foot.
yeah. But it didn't seem to
But
worry about the car coming towards it. It just stayed there.
it was one of those surreal moments where I was looking at it, and it was looking at me, and what's going on here? So I got out the van and I tried to shoo it away, but it's just sort of, hours where they just turn their head and just look at you. You just thought, well, I ain't going anywhere.
I was here first.
I got back into the.
Yeah, I was here first. Go round.
I got back into the van. Yeah, that's it. I got back into the van, and it just kept looking at me, and then all of a sudden he just flew off.
Did he? Question.
His wingspan was huge. He did have a big wingspan.
Did he go down your right? Because obviously in England, Cornwall, we drive on the right side of the vehicle, right? Okay. So did the owl, when it took off, did it go down your right side by your window? Because that's what mine did.
He actually flew off to the left.
Oh, yours went left.
Mine flew off to the left.
Oh, right. Okay. There's no pattern there. And I wondered if there might be a pattern, but there's not.
Well, that's what happened that night. But about 2 weeks later, same situation. I went in to see Mum and Dad again.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to go along that road again. And it was a similar sort of night. And as I get along that road, this night, I seen another owl, but he was sat on the fence to the right of me. And he was just looking at me.
Right.
And I slowed down and was looking at the owl. And then I carried on. And then I seen another owl. Now, I don't know whether it's the same one, but I seen another one further down on a fence post.
Uh-huh.
I then went further along and seen another one on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Of a fence post. And then to top it all off, as I was actually coming into Hale, there's this bend I'm going around, and then there was another one on a tree.
Right.
Looking at me. So
it's
one
almost like
about.
Yeah, they're like sentries almost.
Yeah.
They're like it's almost like they're guarding something. And as you said earlier, you get all these really weird light anomalies. And what I'm suggesting is, and I'm sure you've been there, is like they're not really owls at all. We see owls, but I don't think they are owls sometimes. I mean, sometimes they really are owls, we know that, but I think there are occasions when they're sort of masking. There's some sort of masking for something else. Because I had an experience, well, you know about mine in Bude was similar to yours, but it was bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I lost time. I sort of lost time, but instead of losing time, like you hear a lot of these owl stories where people lose time when they see them, and that's when they lose the time. I could never make out mine because mine happened earlier on in the evening because it's a long story. It's on another podcast, and it was in my book, but I dropped my son off at a place to play music. And then I said I'd go and collect him when it was done. I said, just ring me when you need me to get you. So he rang me, and then he rang me at the time he said, I can't remember what time it was now without checking, but he rang me at the time he said he would and said, oh, Dad, I'm done now. Can you come and get me? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll be up there. Next thing I know, the phone's ringing again, and it's my son again. And he's saying to me, where are you, Dad? Well, he was swearing a bit because he was really unhappy. Because it was now, instead of being 10 o'clock or whatever, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was like, where the hell are you, Dad? You told me you were going to get... And I'm like, because I didn't know that I'd been out of it for 3 hours.
That's 3 hours later.
Because I didn't know. I just thought, I literally put the phone down, and I put the phone down, and I picked it up again because it rang. Because I thought, oh, that's weird. The phone's ringing again. Picked it up. He's having a go at me, and I'm saying, I was annoyed because I didn't realise the time had passed. And I said, yeah, I've just told you I'm coming up. Give me a chance. And he goes, Dad, that was 3 hours ago. So that was what happened to me. I have no... So I was at home when I lost my time, so to speak. I was at home. Now, a materialist, rationalist sort of, they would say, well, you fell asleep. You were tired. You fell asleep. Well, that's one explanation, but why? It was just too fluent. It's like literally, I put the phone down, put it down, and then it rings again. And I'm thinking, well, who's ringing me now? That's weird. 2 calls so quickly. That's unusual. So what I'm saying is, I lost that time somehow before I saw the owl. So mine is like slightly different to most cases I've read about. In fact, all of them. So do you think there's an element of that in what happened to you? Do you think they were not just owls?
The thing is,
as they say in Twin Peaks, the owls are not what they seem.
supposed to have a spiritual meaning now, isn't it? They're supposed to be related to spiritual awakening and opening your eyes.
So it's a symbolism. It's like
to what's really going on.
Yes, it's like a metaphor for something that's going on in your life. Yeah.
And you need to take note of it. You need to try and understand what it all means.
They're trying to sort of educate us in some way about something, aren't they?
I think everyone's got spiritual animals, and they will show them to you in certain times when you need to, I suppose. And the owls has definitely come on strong in the last 3 or 4 years for me. Did
you have a sighting with, I can't remember her surname, Barbara? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah. When after I had those 2 experiences on that road there, when I went to a UFO skywalks with Dave Gillam, we met up with Barbara Chapman, I think her name is.
Yeah.
She's from up London way, and she was staying on the holiday caravan park down there near Hill. So we met up with her. We met up with her for Skywatch. I only met her. I spoke, just said hello, Barbara.
Yeah.
The next minute, she started going on about she's seen an owl.
Right.
That road's going from Hill to Portreath.
Yes.
She just come out of it, and I said, that happened to me.
It's so weird, isn't it?
A few weeks ago.
Synchronicities with the owls.
Yeah, synchronicity, exactly.
Yeah.
And we had the same thing happen to both of us.
And there's no such thing as a coincidence.
And we've only just met, and we're both going out on a skywatch together. It took me aback when she actually said that. I thought, wow. Other weird things with the owls is like going to customers' houses. Been to one customer's house, and she's got an apron on that's got owls on. She's given me a cup that's got an owl on it. The only garden ornament they got in the house is an owl.
Yeah.
And this happens at every customer's house. I see an image of an owl somewhere. It's not that I'm looking for it. They just seem to find me. Find me. But
I know exactly what you mean.
It's very strange. But Mike Clellan's, he's done a subject on owls, hasn't he? Mike
I've listened to a couple of his lectures. It's interesting. Yeah, he had strange experiences, didn't he? I was a big fan of Twin Peaks, and that was heavy on owls as well. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's.
It's weird you should say that, because that's weird, because I was listening to the local radio today, and she kept playing a theme tune of this program. She said, "Did anyone know what it is?" And I knew what it was. It was Twin Peaks. Dave and Kevin went up to Rendlesham Forest and met.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, a few years ago.
We had a walk around Rendlesham for the night.
Did you have any?
Which is a very eerie.
It was it right.
We picked up some white orbs and some photos, but the place is very, very eerie. There's definitely some energy in that Rendlesham Forest. There's no signs of wildlife or birds or anything in the very strange place.
Were you near Bentwaters, the RAF station?
We walked around the forest. We looked at RAF Bentwaters, which is all empty now, isn't it? But still all fenced off. But there is rumours they still use it.
I recorded a friend of mine, Jeff, Professor Payne. The whole idea of that particular podcast was to discuss Joshua Cutchin's book on fairy food. And when we were sort of arranging to do all this, even before I'd actually picked up the book to start reading it, because I had the book for some time, but I never got around to reading it really. But before I picked it up, I had a dream. It wasn't like a long dream with a storyline. They never are. It was just like I remembered like images of it. And I was sort of standing somewhere outside my house, I don't know. And on the rooftop watching me, there was this like green man. I can only describe him as a green man, like a Birdman type character. And he sat on the roof with his sort of knees tucked in under his chin. And he's just staring at me, almost like a sort of, I'm watching you, son, sort of thing, you know? That's how it was. It was quite menacing. And that's all I remembered of that dream. So I was messaging Jeff, Professor Payne, the next day, telling him, look, I've not even started reading this book yet, and I'm already having weird dreams, you know. I thought it was quite funny. And he said to me, he said, oh, you need to take that seriously. Yeah, the next night I have a dream. I'm sort of stood by a house. I don't know whose house it was. And a little boy runs past me. I don't really know who it was, but it might have been my lad when he was, because he's in his 30s now. It might have been him when he was a toddler. I don't know. It happened quick. Ran past me, closed the door behind him, to stop this other lad following him in, right? So I'm outside. They sort of run past me. That's all I remember. It wasn't like a beginning and end, a middle and an end. It was just these images. So this little boy that's locked outside, who I don't know, he's sort of standing there and he's looking upset because he wants to go in the house with this other boy. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? So because he's a little lad, I get down low, like you do when you talk to a kid. You try not to intimidate him with your height. So I get crouched down alongside him, and I said to him, "Oh, what's the matter?" I think he sort of wanted to go in the house. And I sort of said, "Oh, what's your name?" And this little lad, and I saw the face quite clearly, like I saw the green man's face. He just looked at me and he said, "Victor." In the morning, I was talking about this and saying, look, this weird dream with this little kid. And I asked him his name and he said his name's Victor. It just didn't make any sense. No sense at all. So later on in the day, I'm reading Joshua's Cutchin's book, Trojan Feast. It's quite early on in the book, and he talks about all these different Fae characters, like your Knockers, Sprigians, or I don't think he mentioned Sprigians, but all of them, And it mentioned Mogwai, Mogwai. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it. And I didn't know that was a Fae creature. I had no idea. Evidently, it's a Chinese Fae, Chinese fairy. I knew that name because there's a Scottish band called Mogwai. The connection is coming up. So Mogwai did the music for a French TV series about 10 years ago called Les Revenants, The Return, which was about people dying and then coming back to life, coming back to their family. And their family's like, what the hell? Do you remember? I don't know if you saw it. It's really good. I saw the French version, the original. It's really good. And the music for that show was Mogwai. They did a whole soundtrack and it's really good. I love it. Really good stuff. So I'm on YouTube. What got me looking at that again was Joshua's book with that reference to Mogwai. That's what sparked this, right? So I'm looking at the thumbnails for Mogwai and Les Revenant because I'm looking at both, and I'm seeing the imagery from that TV series and seeing some of the characters that I hadn't seen for 10 years or whatever it was, maybe 8. I'm looking at that and I'm listening to some Mogwai, a track called Wizard Motor, and I'm looking at the other thumbnails, right? Thumbprints, whatever they call them. And one of them is a little boy talking to a lady, a sort of middle-aged lady. It's like a clip from the series. Bear in mind, I've seen this, but I saw it like 10 years ago and I'd forgotten most of it, but I sort of remembered these images. I remembered that boy and I remembered that woman. So I clicked on it and I watched, and this little boy has come back from the dead in the series, Les Revenant, and he's adopted, I'm just using that word because I don't know what other word to use, this lady who's not his mum. He's adopted her, and there's like this sort of emotional moment where he puts his arms around her neck and she sort of says, "Oh, who are you?" Yeah. And you know what I'm going to say. The little boy says to her, "Victor." Isn't that weird? That is so weird. And it blew my mind. It's like, wow.
It is weird.
That is so odd. And all of this has been sparked by Joshua Cutchin's book, Trojan Feast, because that's where I got that's where I saw the reference to Mogwai, which took me to the music, which took me to the TV show. And then with him saying, "Victor," that was what I dreamt the night before with a little boy. Yeah. And I asked him what his name was. You can hear it in my voice, can't you? I am still freaked out by that. I'd like to give a big thank you to Matt James for being my guest today and to acknowledge a few books and other media that we mentioned in this episode. These were Joshua Cutchin's A Trojan Feast, The Food and Drink Offerings of Aliens, Fairies and Sasquatch, Mike Freebury's Killers on the Moor, my own Spirit of Cornwall, A Haunted Legacy books, Mark Anthony Wyatt, the French TV drama Les Revenants, The Returned, and the soundtrack of that drama by Mogwai. You've been listening to the Cuckoo Town podcast. If you enjoyed the experience, please like, share, and add us to your podcast favourites. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms, and we're on YouTube too. Thanks for listening. See you next time when we'll take another stroll down a road less travelled. Be lucky. Be lucky.
Cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. She warbles as she flies, but she never hollers cuckoo until the 4th day of July. Jack of diamonds, pockets. You're the meanest heart I know. Whether you're up my poor pockets, my silver and gold, I'm going up on a mountain, gonna build me a whiskey still, and I'll sell you one bottle for a $20 bill. Going up on a mountain, gonna stand there looking down, so I can see my pretty baby whenever she comes around. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. She warbles as she flies, and she never hollers cuckoo until the 4th day of July. Oh, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird. She warbles as she flies, but she never hollers.
Cornwall and the supernatural were woven together in time immemorial. They remain entwined. The supernatural is the metaphorical ivy that twists and turns around this ancient granite kingdom.